brain clunked. I was living in anxiety, right, because of my past, but everything was going in my present. And, so I was constantly in anxiety through the drugs and constantly for the fear of living. I think the fear was living without drugs. That was what was keeping me in the drugs, because I didn't know. There was a moment I remember stepping over the boundary, if you get what I mean, a couple of years before. All my mates were going, "Oh, you're just doing too much. You're doing too much. Be careful, be careful." I mean, I'm all right, I'm all right. And then one day I thought, I'm not all right.
Welcome to Another Door podcast. Another Door is a place that you come to when you're rethinking your work, whether it's job loss, a career change, or you just want to rethink how you are doing your work right now. Come and find us at anotherdoor.co.uk. In this episode, I am speaking to Brandon Block. Now, if you were around in the late 80s, 90s, clubbing it in maybe Ibiza or some warehouse rave somewhere, you will be familiar with Brandon Block. But now you're maybe not so familiar with what he's up to these days. And I get to talk to him about his wellness retreat for men, his Happy Days community, his amazing work with the NHS. Truly a man who is living another door. Many doors have closed and many doors are opening. So this is a fascinating chat. Absolutely loved it. We talked much, much longer than what we're going to put out in this episode, but it's all good quality stuff. Will definitely get you rethinking about your next chapter. Hope you enjoy. I would love to know your thoughts. Enjoy. Brandon, thank you so much for coming on Another Door. I did one of those things where I had like a little wish list of people, and I've had it for like maybe 12 months, but I haven't had the balls to approach people. And then I just got back from Ibiza a few weeks ago and thought, right, I'm just going to do it. And you came top of mind because I saw what you were doing. So thank you so much. You give me a bit of a boost of energy apart from anything else, but I'm looking forward to hearing about your story. So thank you for coming on.
More than a pleasure. Did you enjoy Ibiza, did you?
Yeah, not bad. I mean, me and the girls were getting on a bit now, to be honest. We didn't get heading to our 50s, so it's a different experience, but we still enjoyed it, still embraced it. It's all good.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's one of those places, isn't it? You when you have, it's very unique. No matter what's gone on there, it's still very unique.
Let's get stuck into Another Door. As I said, we're all about telling stories of like doors closing in your life and what happens, because some doors are forced, obviously, for various reasons. Some doors you choose to. And I've been following your story for years, and I know that your doors have come in many different ways. So where are we going to start, Brandon? Where do you think we're going to start?
Well, yeah, I mean, firstly, it's strange that you say doors. I've always used that analogy when I've spoken to, I've been coaching clients. So yeah, doors. My doors. Wow. It was a long time ago, and there wasn't, when I did it, there wasn't the information out there. There wasn't the support out there. There wasn't, the availability of therapy necessarily, or, there was, 12-step recovery program, the fellowship, which, I touched on. It wasn't for me then, maybe, but that point in time, I had to just be with myself and sit with myself. I wasn't able to share. I was so mushed in my head for the amount of gear I took. It was like just struggling to be in one place was enough for me. Not even articulating about how I was feeling, emotional. No, I just had to sit there and let the bomb stop going off in my head.
Do you remember, was there like one moment that you sort of remember it all, like that is it? Or was it just...
What do you mean? You mean when I stopped?
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a moment. It was the most incredible, I say experience, because I remember it. I don't know what I was feeling because I was so sort of twisted in my mind. The people, if you're listening, just be careful when you use stimulants. Charlie, coke, crack. meth, anything like that, because speed, ecstasy, that stuff just really, if you do it too much, will really screw you up for a long time. And I know that because I used to take really good stuff back in the day, right? So for me, there was a moment when I was really, also my madness took me to really taking risks with my life, a lot of them. You know, I didn't care about myself a lot. The party, not only was I a party animal, I was an animal to myself. So, you know, I did the jump off the ferry in Hong Kong Harbour and caught the most weird version of TB ever known to man, sort of thing, because no one dies in that water, let alone, you know, ever. So I came home and I had this, I coughed up a big half a pint of blood and had to go straight to the hospital. And then they said, right, you're in isolation ward now. And this was like 28 years ago. I was using it in hospital, man. I was getting it cut through the rubber gloves, which you can't touch people with. I've bit the end off one so I could get it siphoned in. And the nurses were doing my observations at the end of the day and going, wow, your blood pressure's so high and your heart rate's through the roof. And I was like, oh, I don't know what that is, because I was functioning, you know, and my tolerance was through the roof, and so was my constitution. I was like, yeah, well, I don't know what that is. Sorry, can't help you. And they were like, mental, you know? And I'd use that word in the way it's meant to be used. I don't mean, you know, crazy, let's say. Also contracted hepatitis C through probably sharing notes, I would imagine. It's a bloodborne virus, and for those people who have those behaviours or practices still, it's worth getting a test. It's free. Hepatitis C Trust will come and test you and let you know, and it's curable, which is great. Never used to be, so it's totally curable now. So I had various illnesses which weren't doing my health any good. Slowly, on top of the drugging and everything else, I was dying, and I realised that, but I wasn't prepared to live, if that makes sense. I was ready. I was just waiting for it to happen. I was thinking it's going to happen, so I'll just well carry on until it does. Thankfully, I got to a stage where I was such in pain, physical pain, not just a bit, and even the amount of gear I was taking wasn't even medicating any longer. I was just in pain. I was sitting in the hospital thinking, oh man, I don't know, I was shaking. I had this itchy called cocaine bug. I was rocking backwards and forwards on the chair. And like a proper case, they said, we're not giving you any more prescribed medication. Well, you are a walking time bomb. We just can't risk it. You have to go and get help. And you go and get help. You don't even know to start, where to turn. Where's that? 1996, where do I go and get help? No one does this. This is not unknown to anyone. Anyway, I was sitting in the chair in the hospital, and then all of a sudden, I just had this moment. It was like a clunk in my head. The only way I could describe it is, if you know when you meditate or you relax to such an extent that you forget, literally, like I suppose Eckhart Tolle, living in the present moment, if you actually just forget literally everything and you're in that present moment and there's nothing you can think of, or your mind's blank, you relax completely, right? And utterly, like you transcend, whatever you want to do it, you just let go, and then you're there. And then this moment happened, and it just like my brain clunked. I was living in anxiety, right? Because of everything that was going on, not only my past, but everything was going in my present. And, so I was constantly in anxiety through the drugs, and constantly for the fear of living. I think the fear was living without drugs. That was what was keeping me in the drugs, because I didn't know. There was a moment I remember stepping over the boundary, if you get what I mean, a couple of years before. All my mates were going, "God, you're just doing too much. You're doing too much. Be careful, be careful." I mean, I'm all right. And then one day I thought, I'm not all right. And I knew it. And I just didn't. I didn't have the capacity to change just then. I wasn't ready. I mean, anyway, I was still partying really hard. I loved it, and it wasn't troublesome enough, if you get what I mean.
Were you frightened of who you would be without the drugs?
I didn't know who I'd be without drugs, because I'd lost that, and that was such a long time before. And when you live in something so intense, let's say intense, right? So because this was in existence, don't forget, it wasn't like a weekend or a couple of days. It was every single day from morning till night, loads and loads. If I slept at all, it would be a couple of hours before I was doing it again. And then I was also taking the Rohypnol, the downers at the time, before they became what they did, the horrible thing people use them for. But they were like the biggest benzodiazepines, or the strongest ones you could get. And, luckily enough, I had some friends who were chemists, and, I could get as many as I wanted. And we weren't aware of what they were. We just took them because they made us come down.
Yeah.
And then we'd go up again, and then we'd come down, and we'd go up again, and you'd be more like a walking zombies. We were like the modern Walking Dead. But we loved it. And anyway, back to that moment, and I had this moment, my brain sort of clicked, it clunked, it felt like it had been picked up and dropped back in my head. Like that, boom, boom. And I went, I took a deep breath, and I went, I can do this. It was like I'd let go of all the fear at one moment. Just for that literally for that moment, because I think it was like make or break. So that moment was a moment of clarity, and I went, I now know I can do this. If I can have these moments like this, it's doable. So I sort of clung to that, and then obviously had to go and do some work. And there's a thing called the cycle of change when you work in the recovery field. And the cycle of change is like a wheel of a balance, similar to a balance wheel of life, but it's about your cycle of changing not only your behaviours, your life, and your interventions you do for yourself and from other people. And then what you once you've done the circle, the circumference, you come back to a place of change, i.e., you no longer take drugs, obviously. You've made a new life. You have new friends, or maybe old friends, but you do different things. I went in that clinic, and overnight, over 3 weeks, I stopped. I was weaned off. I had many medications, which were horrendous, and I hated, which I stopped taking as soon as I could. But within that 3 weeks, I came out and I never relapsed. The decision was so powerful, because I'd used it so much, there was no justification left in the world. There was nothing I could, as you say, there was no door I could unlock, which I hadn't already unlocked. It was like, if you imagine them old swimming pools, right? With the changing rooms down both sides. Every fucking door was open, right?
You'd been in them all.
In every single bloody changing room. I'd graffitied on everyone, right? And I'd left the excuse on each bloody wall, on every one. This is my reason today. This is my reason today. And then there'd be the fourth door, and it would say, we'll stop on Monday. And then the next door would say, it's Tuesday, I'm back in the room again. So literally what I did was I went along that line and just went, ding, 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 shut all them doors, all them changing room doors, and slammed them shut. And then, it took a while to shut all those doors, but I did it. And it wasn't, and the only reason it took a while to shut them doors is because I was learning to live. I was emotionally void. I was learning to be a human again. I wasn't like that. And, it took a while to shut them doors, but, I did it. And I did it rigorously until pretty much they were all shut. I mean, look, there's another set of doors open. We know that in our lives, but they're different. And they're not as damaging. And they're not as, they're hopefully open to more sunshine on the inside. If you imagine Narnia going into the wardrobe, and each one of those doors is now a beautiful opportunity, let's say. Which is a good analogy to look at it like that.
Yeah.
It could be, you could walk through Narnia into all the trolls. You never know. It's not always going to be a lovely, a nice snowy, Aslan at the other side. It could be the wicked witch.
I think one of the things that when we talk about, the doors closing as you've described and honest, as you've been honest about, it's messy in that bit in between, but something good comes from it and the next door opens. And was it counselling then? Did you go into counselling to try and help others, help you?
No. So basically,
that was an interesting kind of move.
Well, look, firstly, let me get this right. I'm not a counsellor. I'm not a qualified counsellor. But what I did was, after about 10 years of journeying, let's say, discovery, I like to use discovery, we all get it. We're humans. We're connected creatures, and we like to help our fellow person, right? So I made some inquiries about going to work for a drug and alcohol service. This is in 2010. And it turns out the girl who was the line manager of the organisation I contacted was an old friend of mine, a friend of a friend. Let's say we knew each other from a distance, but it wasn't long to get to know each other. We had a lot of mutual friends. And I went to see her and she said, you can't just walk in here, expect to know everything and tell everything because it don't work like that. And I went, oh, okay, what's it? She said, well, I've got to put you on training straight away. And I'd not, God, this was like, I'd not even been in a classroom. I didn't go in a classroom when I was at school. So going to train and with my ADD and all that, which I obviously know I've always known I've got something like that because I can't concentrate at best of times. I'm very easily distracted. And this modern world doesn't help with distractions at all. It causes it. But I went back to, she put me on an NVQ straight away, which I passed. NVQ level 2 for drugs and alcohol. I then went on to do my sitting guilds in health and social care. I did all the training courses which the company offered. And then obviously I was a project worker, it's called, and I got a lot of work, did lots of good outcomes. And at the time, my fame or infamy, let's say, was quite useful because people resonated towards me because obviously they'd been there. A lot of them came from club world. So they were all sort of, oh man, Blocko, yeah, I can talk to him, he understands, you know what's going on. And I did, I've been there, either with them in some capacity or, wherever. So that made it easier to break the ice. And I moved in the treatment system or treatment world. There's often tenders that go out, companies get taken over a lot and, can offer a better deal, like the governments really. And I ended up working for the NHS, specifically doing outreach with multiple complex needs, which was really difficult, very emotive, really quite, frightening because you see the way people live. And you go, God, how does this even happen in this world,
Mm.
I mean, look, I've always found, this is just me, I'm not, not belittling anyone who studies because I'm very in awe and I find it difficult to myself, but I think experientially, life experience is as important.
Mm.
I think having a knowledge or an understanding and even an empathy around what's going on, it's easier than just, talking about old school. I mean, if you notice all the old school psychotherapists or psychoanalysts or Freud and Jung and all them people, they're 200 years old or 150 years old. It's moved on so much. You've got the modern day people like, Russell's really good. He's a mate. Joe Dispenza is incredible. Do you know Dr. Joe Smith?
Yeah.
That was my sort of like epiphany moment many years ago because I was sort of struggling with this stuff, myself stuff. I was wondering, why do I still want this real deep, crazy anxiety moments? Why do I still go into these mad, thinking cycles after all this year? And I realised it was because, not just my body become used to the cortisol because of the negative and the fear. So it gets it. So I need that change of feeling. And if it's not for the best, we meditate to change our feeling, to be in the present moment, to be happy. And we release dopamine, but that's rare because it's not released regularly, whereas, cocaine and stuff releases it, triggers it. But if we get dopamine released by being happy, then that's wonderful. But as you say, the world doesn't really allow that often.
Mm.
You're going to have to go stand on the mountaintop in Switzerland and stroke sheep to be really happy and have no one to talk to forever. So it's difficult.
It's how you get your highs, isn't it? And like what?
Yes, it is. I mean, but
the highs. That's what his work is about, isn't it? It's about like actually maybe you don't need highs. You stop getting the highs, then you don't get the lows. You live in the moment, but that's a massive change. It's not something overnight, is it? You've got to work on that.
Absolutely, but you don't necessarily need the highs. What are we needing the highs for? We need the highs to escape the lows, or the norm even, because we're creatures of experience. We want to experience things. That's why I say, try this, try this, try this, try this. We discover things, and by trying new things, we create new things. This is what an incredible species we are. There are two sides to that, because half of the human race I really dislike, like the people who are cruel to animals for no reason, and the big corporates who literally just do stuff to make money. The list is endless. But there are really great people on the other side who do wonderful things and use their minds for incredible things, let's say. So we're always searching for something different or something elsewhere outside of in here. But if we're okay with in here, that's fine. But, we're always going to want that little bit extra. There's a little experience because, as you say, comfortable in the present moment is great. But I would imagine that's probably getting boring at some point. If you resonate at a normal level, you go, okay, this is very lovely and calm and peaceful and just chilled and wicked. But how long does that last?
Mm.
3 weeks of being calm, chilled and wicked. Let's just say you do that on holiday. You go away for 3 weeks and you go, you go and sit in Santa Gertrudis or, San Miguel or some important acts, and you sit there for three weeks on a beach with no one around. You go, lovely. And then you go, I need some excitement. I need something more, So that's why we connect with people, isn't it? Bloody hell. It's great to be on your own, but, like Ed Stafford did those 60, 70-day things in the, isolated islands, survival skills, great. But he couldn't wait to talk to someone when he comes back. 3 months on your own without saying a single word to anyone is got to play with your mind.
Are you looking for somebody to help you rethink your work? Are you looking for somebody who has got something to say, something different? Perhaps you're creating an event, you've got a conference coming up, and you're looking for speakers or workshops that really get people rethinking. Check out our platform with fresh new voices and people who've got something to say. Come and see us at recommended.anotherdoor.co.uk. That bit about people and community, is that what sort of made you with the next thing that then you did? You started Happy Days with that community. Was that brought about from that?
Well, what happened was, right, so working in the drug and alcohol field, and then we come up against these sort of red tape stuff, people trying to move people on in their lives. And you come up against all this, like, sort of, let's say, dotting the I's and the T's and red tape. There's a process, there's a waiting list, there's a this for that, all you want to do is help someone. So moving forward, I was offered, now this was the big, one of the changes. So I was offered Celebrity Big Brother again, right? Because I was offered it many times in the 90s and the 2000s. And I got picked to the post every time. Oh, that one, Bez has got you this time, blah, 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 blah. And I said, well, okay, I forgot about it. Anyway, they come up to me in 2017 and said, look, we want you guys to be Big Brother. We'd probably be the last one. I said, okay. I said, look, I'm not going to hold my hopes up. I said, if you come across with it and it happens, then good. And then they said, no, it's definite. I started saying, yeah, it's definite. And I thought, well, okay, so I'm getting my head in this now. As I worked for the NHS. And then it got to like 2 or 3 weeks before, and I still hadn't heard the contract, and I've not left the job yet. So I got the yes, and I said to the NHS, look, I've got to go now. I told them about it like 3 months before. I said, look, I've got to go. But by that time, I'm in burnout from the job because we weren't being supported properly. God, I thought, oh my God. And then they put you in a room, you can't speak to anybody. And I went, and the show psychiatrist come to say hello, and he said, I'm a really big fan. I was a raver back in the day, blah, blah, blah. You've got integrity. It's lovely to see you here. And I was explaining what I've been doing. He said, oh my God. He said, you sure you want to do this? He said, because I couldn't do that job you've been doing.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And he went, have you stopped smoking? I went, yeah. He said, you'll start again. Get yourself 200 Marble Lights. And I was like, so I've got it now in the house. And it was a real difficult experience for me. I had to leave, sorry. Because I wasn't myself, and I was struggling with this journey I was on. I was, asking myself, who am I? Do I want to be on TV again? I've been working with confidentiality, boundaries, guarding information, and then I've got cameras behind walls. And anyway, I loved the experience, and I would do it again gladly if that happened, because obviously I'd be different now. But at that time, it wasn't great, and I left the house. But then I realized when I left, not only did I just have that experience, but I was all struggling still from the backlash of the burnout.
Yeah. What a contrast as well. That must have been weird, because you're working with people at the lowest of the low, in, as you say, from the NHS, really seeing like what life really is, and then suddenly you're thrown in a house with sport brat celebrities who don't really have forgotten about living, or live in a different way, should we say.
I mean, they weren't sport brats. They were lovely people. They weren't. No, I've got some good friends from that. But yeah, you're right. And there's a reason for that, isn't it? It's about showmanship. They want to be on telly. They want to do the showmanship stuff. And I just wasn't equipped for that at that time. So, as I said, I came out the house and I sort of thought, Christ, I've got to do some work on myself. I need to get back up. So I went to a Tony Robbins event with a friend. I realised the world of personal development then. I had some reservation. I love the whole experience of, being buddied up and, one collective sort of voice. But then when they started to go to the back of the room and sign up for all this money, I went, that's not for me, because obviously all my stuff I've always got for free. I always wanted to give it for free. So I sort of went on my own journey, let's say, and I met with some really cool people, Michelle being one of them. We just got together and started talking about stuff, and we started crying and, wow, God, how similar. And I said, how can we help people without charging them? And, just a little daily, because if you change something really small on a daily basis, it becomes big. We know that. And you can make those changes. So we started doing daily affirmations on Facebook. I was doing lots of Facebook Lives with various people who had incredible journeys and this, that. And it was very, very massively got some good traction, some good feedback. And we created like Happy Days. And we still do some, workshops. We've still got a group which is functioning after 6 years, a support group within WhatsApp, who support each other. We did have a festival offering, which obviously during COVID was all washed to the back. And since then, it's now changed that world. They now have well-being sort of hospital areas.
Yeah.
It's not fluffy, like we can do interventions about how we can change it. This is like on the ground, people overdosing, all that, really sort of quite frightening. But that's the way of the world now. So we still do our Happy Day stuff. We still get people asking about it, and so that's really nice. We are supposed to be the hunter, the gatherer, the protector, whatever, and that role is now disintegrated because we have no need to go hunting. We don't have to protect each other from saber-toothed tigers. We don't have to necessarily find warmth and fires and build, teepees.
You've got to like the barbecue, though. I won't.
There you go. There's our job. You like the barbecue, dear. I'll bring out the vegetables. And men have always been frightened to talk about it. I've not. I don't mind talking about what's going on for me and how I've been struggling or not struggling. But often men find that difficult because it shows weakness. It doesn't. It shows vulnerability and honesty. So. Yes, there are men's retreats. There's men's this, there's men's that. There's, I've got friends down in Bournemouth where I live now who run men's day retreats, then, support groups. So it was a lovely offering when Sean said, let's use the place of Ibiza. Obviously, I've been there for 30 years, know many, many people on the island. It was where I did my best and worst work. So to be able to do something really not nice there is something I'm really looking forward to. And it'll be on the back of this real cool, pure sea retreat thing, which my friend Lisa does. He used to work for Clockwork Orange, actually. So, yeah, and it's needed. I mean, the amount of people I've had come up to me recently and say, I'm just really interested. It's just difficult to commit. I think people are finding the living nowadays really tough.
Thank you so much for coming on. That was incredible. Thank you very much, Brandon. I really appreciate it. And best of whatever happens next, whatever comes on that vision board, I'm sure you're going to smash it and share with the world your wisdom. So thank you very much.
Well, you know what? Listen, just keep in touch with me now and then, and I'll let you know how we're going. And I'm gonna have my goal map board here ready. It's empty. It's clean. Because this is my new house. I've not drawn it out yet. Put the lines on, but I will do because just talking about it made me think. Maybe I should be doing something else. Maybe I should be. Should I or should I not?
Should, that word, exactly.
Should is another demand we don't like. If I've just said to myself, I should, and I thought, fuck off. I said to myself, no, don't say you should. You make your own choices when you want to. I will do it when I'm ready.
When you're ready.
I will think about what next. You're right, what is next? I'll think about what's next. So listen, everyone. I've really enjoyed talking to you. Thank you for allowing me to rabbit on like a lunatic. If you need any help or you're struggling, look on my Instagram, look on Facebook. There's details of the men's retreat in Ibiza in October. You can also contact us through Happy Days for Everyone charity page on Facebook. You can send me a message on Instagram. Don't be afraid to reach out. It's all confidential. I get it. If you're struggling, just don't be on your own, mate. Or don't be on your own. Don't suffer in silence, as we said.
Yeah.
Just feel free to reach out. And no judgment, just some help. Lovely to meet you, and thank you very much.
Thanks, Brandon. Are you looking for somebody to help you rethink your work? Are you looking for somebody who has got something to say, something different? Perhaps you're creating an event, you've got a conference coming up, and you're looking for speakers or workshops that really get people rethinking. Check out our platform with fresh new voices and people who've got something to say. Come and see us at recommended.anotherdoor.co.uk. Love this podcast? Give us a 5-star review or rate us on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts.